Hi, this is Leora Lanz, and you're listening to Marketing Mindset Lessons from Hospitality, the podcast where I speak with some of my amazing friends throughout the global landscape of hospitality and marketing. We will share best practices that you can use in your business, whether it's in traditional hospitality or not, whether you are an emerging leader in the industry, or seasoned and wanting to stay fresh and always learning. If you're an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur, you need a marketing mindset. Whether you're marketing a business or yourself, we all need a marketing mindset. We know you're busy, but take a listen and figure out how you can apply this fresh thinking to your world, both professional and personal. Let's all think like a marketer. Welcome, everyone, to the Marketing Mindset Podcast, where we take lessons from hospitality to develop our mindset to think like marketers. My name is Leora Lanz, and I am thrilled to be with you here on Hospitality Nexus to share conversations with friends of mine from all around the globe to talk some aspects of marketing and how great it is that we can share examples from hospitality, whether it's hotels or restaurants or tourism or attractions. And we could also apply it to businesses outside of traditional hospitality. Sometimes we will talk about examples not from within hospitality and see if we can apply it to our industry as well. It's an honor to be here with you today. It's a pleasure to launch this very first episode of the Marketing Mindset Podcast with a dear friend of mine. I'll get to him in just a moment. And I also just want to share that the Marketing Mindset name comes from the book by the same name, a book which was launched late in 2025 called Developing Your Marketing Mindset, Real-World Lessons from Hospitality, which I authored, and a companion book which is coming out in 2026 called Marketing Mindset in Motion. It really put me into the zone to have these conversations and to share my dear friends and all the wisdom that surrounds me with you to help develop your marketing mindset. So let's get to it. We're going to have this first episode today with one of my longest, I don't want to say oldest because he knows I'm an anti-ageist, with one of my friends who I've known the longest in my life, a lifetime friend, someone who I met day one of graduate school, which was decades ago, who now we also have the pleasure of working together. And that's my friend, Jonathan Katz. So yay, Jonathan, and welcome to the Marketing Mindset Podcast. And it is absolutely fitting that you are the first guest with me. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Leora, and congratulations on both books. And it's a pleasure to be with you today.
Thank you. Just real quick, Jonathan is a branding and marketing and experience management instructor, lecturer at the Boston University School of Hospitality, where I also teach. So we have the pleasure of learning from each other still. I do believe in lifelong learning. So does he. That's really important to both of us. But how did you get to the school? How did you get to teaching and in hospitality? Because Jonathan, that's not your background. So just give us a little snippet or two about your marketing and branding expertise.
Sure. No, I appreciate that, Leora. We actually had the pleasure of going to graduate school together at Boston University, and that's how we met, of course. You took the pathway of hospitality, and I actually took the pathway of healthcare. And I've had the privilege to work with some amazing folks for about 40 years, running an advertising agency here in Boston. We closed up shop about 2 years ago. But we had an amazing run where we worked with biotechnology, pharmaceutical and medical device clients with a special area in rare disease. And we launched companies, treatments, did a lot of healthcare education with practitioners, with patients, with all sorts of communities. And it's really where I grew up in branding and marketing. And one of the things that I'm really amazed by, and I think this is also clear in the books that you've written, is that when you understand hospitality, you quickly understand that it has utility in any business where people and profit matter. And I think branding does as well. And branding and hospitality, I think, when done properly, are very close cousins, so to speak.
I couldn't agree more. Even in the books, and it didn't really hit me until after I wrote the books, to be honest. If hospitality is about connecting with people and marketing is about connecting with people, they could sort of define each other, couldn't they? And I
Absolutely.
think that's where, while your healthcare background may not be traditional hospitality, boy, is there an intersection with healthcare and hospitality. We really have to practice the same principles of just humanity and connection, right?
Absolutely. And I think both industries, when we're talking about industry itself, I think both industries could learn a tremendous amount from each other. And I think that there's some discipline in the healthcare industry that is really, really constructive. And I think there's obviously a lot of focus on human interaction and the importance of that in the hospitality industry that
Right.
healthcare can certainly benefit from.
Absolutely. I want us to get right into our specific topic for today's conversation, which is branding. You are the instructor who teaches branding, and you fight wholeheartedly to make sure that everybody is taking this branding course, because if we're not branding a product or a topic or an issue, we are branding ourselves all along the way. So branding is really key. And I want us to talk about that for a minute. Why you feel so strongly, and I agree for the record, why you feel so strongly that branding is actually the foundation for marketing.
Yeah, no, I think that, we are in a world where there are brands and there are commodities, right? And I think that if you want to get the most out of your business, then you should try to gear yourself to be a brand. I also feel like if you are going to market and you don't have a brand to market and you're really marketing a commodity, it's a very, very different experience. And in my opinion, I think you're throwing good money away after bad. I think that, I think we should even probably start off with, what are we talking about with branding?
Right. Let's backtrack for a minute and let's sort of define brands. So I'm glad we want to go there. Let's define, what is a brand? What is a brand?
So what I teach in our school is that branding is all about establishing and maintaining relationships that are based on value. So establishing and maintaining relationships that's based on value. And value can mean different things to different people. To the CEO, it might mean return on investment and making sure profits are high. To a customer, it might mean, the reliability and a pleasurable experience. To employees, it might mean making sure that we feel heard and seen and valued and taken care of. And so I think that when we talk about brands that we like, it's really no different than branding and relationships. Our relationship with brands is the same thing as our relationships with people. I think that, I often will ask the students, name a friend. And they'll think of someone that they care for, and I'll say, well, what are the attributes you like about that person? And they'll say, oh, well, they're reliable, they're funny, they're trustworthy, they know how to make me comfortable. And it's the same attributes that we assign to people that we also assign to brands. Those are the same characteristics that we care about in the brands that we like. And the brands
True.
and the brands that we associate ourselves with are a reflection of us, much like the company that we keep is a reflection of ourselves as well.
So let's give an example, and hopefully you can actually, if you don't want to share names, that's totally fine. I respect that.
Sure.
But you've done with students in the classroom, and of course, prior in all those years of your agency life, work with companies where we needed to establish what is their brand value proposition, what is the relationship they want to create before we determine how we're going to market, right? So do you want to share an example? Maybe something as simple. I know it's a brand that you actually are very attached to. Let's start with Apple, right? We all have an idea in our minds. I use an Apple laptop because, to be honest with you, my son, who's my cybersecurity expert in the house, said, if you're getting anything else, Mom, I'm not helping you. It's got to be an Apple. And I think he did that selfishly because I've never needed his help. So not with the computer, but he knows it's going to work. So let's talk about Apple. You're an Apple brand advocate yourself. Explain that brand and what the difference is between marketing that brand and actually establishing the brand itself.
Sure. I think that when we think about brands, and Apple's a great example because everyone relates to the experience of having an Apple device or going to an Apple store or even just being
Or at
exposed.
least most people do, right? There are some folks who don't, but let's say most people do.
Sure. And even those people who don't have a really clear idea of what Apple is about. And so it may not be for them. And one of the things that we also talk about in the branding class is that if you think your brand is for everyone, you're probably kidding yourself, right? Because if you're trying to be something to everyone, you really wind up being nothing to all. So, understanding who your brand is for, and these are the audiences that, you die without, right? You really have to have these particular audiences in order to succeed. It doesn't mean that you won't interact and engage with others, but these are the ones you really want to focus in on. And
Right.
the importance of that is you can have three really different types of audiences, but they share something in common. And they share whatever that thing is in common with your brand that also stands for that. So in the case of Apple, for example, when Apple came out originally, they were going against the behemoth of all PCs. And no one had heard of an Apple. It simply didn't exist. The idea of making computers intuitive didn't really exist at that point. And so one of the things that Apple did was it said that it's all about disruption, right? It's all about thinking different, right? Not differently even. Grammatically, they even challenged it with the way they positioned the brand of thinking different. And the business lecturer and author Simon Sinek uses Apple as an example as well, and he's really, really effective in his talk where he talks about the reason why for a brand, right? And
Right.
his analysis of Apple is that the reason why is that in everything that we do, we believe in challenging the status quo, and that's what that brand stands for. Right. But ironically or not ironically, that's also what the believers of Apple believe in as well. It's a shared belief. And that's one of the things that really, even before you go anywhere near marketing, we really encourage our students to think about for the brands that they're either representing or creating.
Yeah.
What is, who are those audiences? What does your brand stand for? And what is the shared belief between your brand and the very potentially very different audiences that you're trying to attract? Sometimes we use the example of Volvo,
Okay.
and we say, Volvo's known for safety, right? And that's what its core belief is all about, safety. But who wants that? Well, maybe parents with brand new families who are concerned about the safety of their new family. Maybe parents of teens that are learning how to drive. And
Right.
maybe retirees who, maybe their driving skills aren't what they were a long time ago. And so when you look at those three audiences, those are even the two sets of parents are at wildly different portions of their life.
Right.
Right? But the thing that these folks all have in common is they have a passion for safety. And so does Volvo. That's what makes them relevant. Now, if you're not in one of those groups and you want to buy a Volvo, sure, we're going to sell you a Volvo, but those are the three groups that we really need in order to make sure that we meet our bottom line.
Right. So I want to just reiterate for everyone who's listening to this, and the book also stresses it pretty emphatically, we cannot try to be all things to all people because you will become nothing to everyone. And that actually defeats the purpose. We need to be the customer solution. The brand needs to be that customer solution. And if you're not talking to or connecting with or marketing to customers who can use you as a solution, you're wasting your time. Let's focus on the folks that will have a meaningful relationship with us.
Yeah,
Jonathan, when we chatted last, you mentioned that there are some misconceptions about branding. Is that the understanding of not knowing the distinction between branding and marketing? Is that some of the misperceptions that you want to help alleviate? Were there some other thoughts you wanted to share there?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of misconceptions. Sometimes when we start our branding classes and we'll talk about what is branding, people will say, "Oh, it's a logo. They focus very much on the visual identity, and visual identity is very important to a brand. I don't disagree with that whatsoever, but it's not the DNA of a brand. It's not what a brand stands for. It really goes back to those shared beliefs, the distinction, what you're trying to own, and also the positioning, right? What you want to be perceived as that brand in the minds of your customers. And interestingly also, and I know the books address this as well, when we think of customers, we typically think of external customers, the people who are purchasing our services or goods. But one of the things that we teach in our school is also to pay attention closely to internal customers.
Right.
Those are our team members, right? And even do we choose to call them employees? Do we choose to call them team members?
Associates or colleagues, right? What's the
Exactly
right?
right. Exactly
Right.
right. And, we have to hire properly. We have to train properly, and we have to retain properly. And I think, Apple is a great example again. When you go into an Apple store, oh my gosh, have those people been hired because of who they are, trained properly, and retained properly? They're taken care of. And, they are the face of that brand. They, in the store, make that Apple experience what it is. And, if you work for a hotel, if you work for a bank, if you work for a doctor's office, the people who are working in those situations have that same opportunity to really make a difference.
Absolutely. I'm going to go off on a tangent for a moment, so bear with me because you talked about we've got to remember the employees first. That is definitely a philosophy that we live by. And so this is a shout out to a book by someone I know, a book that you and I both love and respect called Setting the Table, written by the beloved Danny Meyer, who is a
Yes.
restaurateur in New York, that anybody who's interested in hospitality in particular, but frankly, anyone who runs a business should read, because the concept of enlightened hospitality, where we've got to treat our employees, our associates, our teammates, our colleagues, so that they project the brand and are satisfied. And that comes through to the customers, the guests, the residents, the diners, right? So we have to start in that way. So I'm going off on that tangent. Forgive me for that. I have one other question for you in the meantime, and then I want to ask you about some of your favorite brands. But AI, everybody's asking us about AI, right? We're all sort of playing around now with the LLMs and the chat GPTs and the Claudes and all that good stuff. Does the emergence of AI and the uncertainty of where that leads to mean anything different for branding and marketing as you know it today?
Yeah, I think we're rightly excited and concerned about AI. I think there's a lot to be excited about. It's very, very powerful. It's only going to get better and better and better. And you're kidding yourself if you don't think it's here to stay. It's not a fad. But we also have some concerns, and the concerns are that we don't want people to get lazy because of it, and we don't want people to lose the human element, and we don't want people to just accept what it pops out as truth or viable even. So one of the things that we focus on heavily, and I know you do as well, is critical thinking. And
Right.
so what we are doing in our classes is teaching the students how to use AI as a partner, if you will. Think of AI as a smart intern, if you will. You're going to make sure that you check that intern's work, but you're going to give it some tough tasks. And the critical thinking that you use in providing those prompts and making something good even better, or using it to ideate, or using it to prototype marketing materials for testing, there's lots of ways that AI can be used, but you want to use it constructively, and you don't want to use it in replacement of your own critical thinking. That's the key.
Remember, AI is a tool. To our listeners, it's a tool. It is not a replacement. Jonathan, do you have a favorite hotel brand? Do you have any favorite brands in the hotel space?
Sure, that's a really great question. I'll say something that probably is unpopular to say. I actually believe there's tremendous mediocrity in hotel branding. I believe that, unfortunately, there are too many cases, and OTAs are partly responsible for this, where really great hotel brands have slipped into being commodities.
Yeah.
And understanding, what we're thinking about when we talk about commodities we buy on price, right? So all things are relatively equal, and you're making that decision as a monetary decision.
So what's your favorite brand?
So my favorite brand, I think, in the hotel space is actually the Taj brand. And not because it's ultra luxury, but it's ultra luxury with its own flavor. Taj brings in Indian culture to its brand. And it's luxury that has a tone to it and a feeling to it that is really, really unique. I really, really think it's something that's quite special and not replicated easily. And I think those are the kinds of attributes that you're looking for. And just to balance it out, one of my other favorite brands
Yes.
is, what's that? Do you
No,
want
go
to
ahead. I'm eager to hear it. Yes.
um, I really like the Moxy brand.
Yeah.
And the reason why I like Moxy is that, and you couldn't get a hotel brand more different than Moxy, is because it is really distinct. And they do everything within the voice and tone of their brand. Their brand is all about having a fun time. When you go to one of the hotels, Moxy Hotel, you check in at the bar. You're not at a desk. When you see, their baggage card, it says, "Oh, we all have baggage." There's some fun in it. They really do a good job of extending their brand to every aspect of the experience at the hotel.
Jonathan, Moxy has a really fascinating brand story history, because when the brand first evolved and emerged, and it was under the Marriott flag, it really was intended toward the millennial market and folks of a millennial mindset. And it took a few years, and the brand execs realized, wow, this is actually skewing a little older. It's actually the boomers that are really appreciating who we are. We've got to make some adjustments here. Because I actually remember a YouTube series that Moxy first put out when it came onto the scene, and it was very millennial. And they had to sort of stop that right away because they realized where the customers were coming from. So kudos to Marriott for paying attention to its customers and understanding what worked and didn't work to be able to make a shift. And that's the importance of why it's so strong. You need to know your brand and who you are that customer solution for. For the record, one of my favorite brands, because I have a few, but Margaritaville, probably not a little, maybe an older cousin to Moxy, but Margaritaville is also a brand that knows who it is and knows how to speak its language. And you have a similar experience, and yet you can get different experiences at different locations. So
Absolutely.
I want to share that. Jonathan, as we wrap up, any thoughts that you want to share? Because you and I could chat for days, to be honest, and we have. In our decades of friendship, we have talked for days about these topics. But for the sake of keeping this brief so that people have digestible podcasts, any takeaways that you want to share, or any points that we didn't get to that you think, you know what, we got to let listeners know this about what makes a brand successful? What is a brand, and why is it not the same thing as marketing?
Yeah, so there's two things that I think are really important. One is actually at our School of Boston University School of Hospitality, we've really positioned ourselves under the positioning of our brand standing for experience innovation. And the reason why I'm so proud of our school in doing so is that we recognize, if we ask 10 people what hospitality is, right? On the street, we're going to hear hotels, we're going to hear travel and tourism, we're going to hear restaurants. They are 100% correct. That's the hospitality industry. But when you're talking about mindset in your books, for example, hospitality is a business strategy. It's all about using human interaction deliberately for business goals. That's what hospitality is. And when you go by that definition, and that's what we teach at our school, it has utility in every industry. We've certainly been to hotels and restaurants and planes where, we haven't seen a shred of hospitality, and we're irked by that. And we certainly have seen many where there is an abundance of. But we've also been to a doctor's office where it's been present, or
Right.
with a wheeler it's been present. So I think that one really key thing is that, with experience innovation, we're really trying to make sure people understand that hospitality plays a role in any business and any industry where people and profit matter. The other thing is, as you said, branding and marketing are different. They're complementary. And I think that a strong brand foundation is essential if you're going to market something. Know who you are, know what you stand for, know who the people are that you need and that you're there for. And you're there for them because you share a common belief. Your brand shares a common belief, whether that's the brand, the employees that are bringing it to life, or the customers that you're working with. It's not for everybody. It's for those people, and your brand will thrive because of it.
So if I can be so bold to put that in a tight sentence, I think for us to develop our marketing mindset, we need to remember that a brand is about the experience. And then we know how to connect with folks to communicate that experience. So thank you, Jonathan.
And Leora, one other thing with that, just because you hooked me on it, which is that people think of the experience as being the on-site experience. So the experience of a brand being, when I'm at the hotel, when I'm at the restaurant, when I'm in the doctor's office, right? That's certainly a very important part of the experience. But I really also want folks to realize that as branders and as marketers, we have responsibility for what's happening before the experience. How are we going to build that relationship in a way and maintain that relationship even when they're not on premises? So when you think of the brand experience, please think of it as a really an ongoing thing, much like you would with any friend, right? It's not just when you're together, it's you're investing in the entire relationship.
It's the entire journey of the experience and the physical touch points and the digital touch points. We could go on. There's actually several chapters in the book on that. We could go on forever, but I hope for our listeners, we understand a brand is about the relationship and the experience to the customers who matter and who find us that brand, a purposeful solution. And marketing is to communicate that brand. So Jonathan, thank you for helping us kick this off. This means the world. Thank you. And you'll be back because we have so much more we can chat about. So thank you.
Well, I'm so excited for you. Everyone should read the books. They're fantastic. And continued success.
Super. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Marketing Mindset, Lessons from Hospitality. Marketing Mindset is a production of Think Tank Media and the Hospitality Nexus, the global platform for hospitality education, with resources such as podcasts, articles, and video tutorials. I'm your host, Leora Lanz, and if you want to learn more about how we can work together, visit my LinkedIn at Leora Halpern Lanz. Remember to order a copy of my debut book, the international bestseller, Developing Your Marketing Mindset, Real-World Lessons from Hospitality, which also won the Business Book of 2025 award from the New England Book Festival. And the newest in the series, the companion book, Marketing Mindset in Motion, inspired by hospitality. Everything you need to think like a marketer for your business, your service, or yourself. Connect with meaning through wellness, sustainability, and community to market with meaning and remember the hospitality. Until next time.